This is Alan Karpick with Tom Dienhart, our July 25th version of Saturday Simulcast. We've been burning the midnight oil, doing our homework, trying to make damn sure, because we've been hearing from people if we leave them out or if we slighted them a little bit. Not too many, but it's been a fun road. And if
tell them we're more than willing to take checks to be influenced.
Oh yeah, this is so
votes can be bought.
Yeah, no doubt. Cash is king in the COVID world. It's cash is king in any world. But I want to thank our sponsors, of course, and that is Follett's, Purdue Bookstores, Purdue Federal Credit Union, First Source Bank, 6th Street Dive, East End Grill, both Lafayette restaurants that are serving and going as strong as they can be at this time. Charters team Remax Ability Plus. Kyle Charter's about to be a father again ×2. Here in the next couple of days. And of course, also Home Field Apparel. And if you haven't had a chance to check out our new line of merchandise, our Knucklehead merchandise, I thought I'd have a chance to wear it today. Mine hasn't, as of this recording, hasn't gotten to me in the mail yet, but looking forward to getting that. All right, Tom, I picked first last week. I'll let you pick first. Now we're going to try to pick an offensive line. That's 2 tackles, 2 off guards, and a center. And that will not be that'll be its own challenge. There are some guys that move some positions around, and we know the Pete Quinn lobby is heavy on this one. We know that more than anything. But that's a new kind of pressure if we don't pick Pete at some point in this deal. But your pick, my friend. Who do you like?
From my thorough research deep into the archives of goldenblack.com and my basement library, I think I have to go with Matt Light.
Yeah, that's my first pick.
I mean, it has to be Matt Light. I mean, honestly, Alan, he probably should be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And I think that day will come. So many great Patriot teams, of course, we all are familiar with their Super Bowl runs. He was the kingpin. He was the anchor of those offensive lines that protected Tom Brady for so many years. And at Purdue, of course, that's where it all began for Matt. A great story. I remember came from Ohio as a tight end, class of 96. He was a Jim Coletto recruit, Alan. Jim Coletto got this guy. Came to Purdue, played a little bit as a freshman that year in 96. Then he redshirted in 97, Tiller's first year. Of course, the magic touch of Joe Tiller, right? Sells this guy on moving. You want to be an average tight end or a great offensive tackle. Of course, the rest is history, Alan. He shifts to tackle. He plays as a stalwart, 98, 99, 2000, all Big Ten player. I think he was a second-round pick in 2001, and there you go. The NFL resume we all know too. Matt Light, an iconic player, a special talent who persevered, and again, his impression and his accolades will ring loudly for a long time on campus.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. You got to protect the blind side anymore, and Matt Light was as good as anybody. Think about a guy that has protected the blind side of 2 of the greatest quarterbacks, 2 of the 5 greatest quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. Now he protected Drew Brees as a or as in college, obviously, and Tom Brady in the NFL. That's pretty impressive resume. Matt, a great guy, kind of a friend of the show, so to speak, and he is really was a terrific player. Made second team All-American. I don't think he made any first team. He may have made a couple of first team All-Americans in his senior year, but a quality.
Hey, Alan, real quick, and we can move on, but I'd like your perspective on this. The 2000 Purdue offensive line had, I think, 4 NFL players. In your vast Purdue history, has Purdue ever had a better offensive line?
No, I think you could build a case the late 60s. And again, you're comparing 230-pound guys compared to 280, 290, 300. It's just a different game. Not certainly in the last 50 years. It's not even close, to be honest. And in my view, of a unit that got the job done, Drew Brees only sacked 10 times in the year 2000 and 502 pass attempts. That's pretty good. Yeah, they were definitely the standout unit. I mean, you could build a case for certainly, and getting back to Pete Quinn and company with Dale Schwann and Steve McKenzie. That was an extremely good line in the late 70s with Jim Young and others in there as well. But I think I would tip my hat to those guys. All right, I'm going to cheat, I guess. I'm going to build my line because I'm going to draft a tackle that I'm going to move him to the left side in my office. I don't know if he ever played left tackle, so I'm cheating something fierce. But Donnie Green is my pick.
Oh, yeah.
And Donnie Green qualifies because he played in 1970 at Purdue, 68, 69, 70. From Portsmouth, Virginia, just passed away. Donnie did. He was the electric company, as part of the electric company who blocked for the, I guess you can say, the notorious O.J. Simpson. But
infamous.
Donnie Green was a great lineman, 6'8", only weighed 255, at least all he was listed at. He'd have been a guy that was 6'8", 330 in today's world. And I'd move him from right tackle, which is where he played, I believe, at Purdue, and I'm 98% sure he played that position with the Buffalo Bills for the majority of his career. But I'm going to switch him over and have him block my blind side. He did not make first team All Big Ten, but I think he would be my pick as just a pure athlete and a guy that was a great pro, blocking on the electric company line. That's right? It was the juice in the electric company. Reggie McKenzie. I should be able to name that line, but I know
Joe DeLamalure was in
Michigan, right? McKenzie.
Reggie McKenzie, you're exactly right. 1973, 2,000-yard season.
Yep.
Al and I had a pair of spot-built cleats because of O.J. Simpson.
There you go.
Could run a 40-yard dash in about 6'2" flat.
Yeah, O.J. Simpson you watch the film of him and you realize how great he was. He had a good line play, but that 1973 season might be the best in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
Or as good as. It's probably not the best, but it's close right there. All right, Tom, you're up. We've got our blind side kind of protected, but you pick. Who you have next?
Well, I'm going to go with one of the greatest stories in Purdue football history, Alan. That is the tale of Nick Hardwick.
Yeah, that's a good call.
The story of Nick Hardwick, I'm sure the listeners, viewers, and yourself are familiar with. From Indianapolis, he was a wrestler. Comes to Purdue just like you and I did, Alan, carrying a backpack and going to classes and hanging out in the dorm as a student. Goes to the Rose Bowl as a fan. He's in the stands in Pasadena for that game. Decides to walk on. I remember reading stories you guys were writing about this walk-on named Nick Hardwick and Jim Chaney raving about him, and wondered how good this guy really was. Is he really that good? Well, sure enough, he was the real deal and becomes an all-time great center of Purdue, a tremendous NFL career with the Chargers, blocking for Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson on some great teams out there in Southern California, and just an iconic figure. And again, to matriculate from walk-on status to becoming one of the best in the Big Ten and the best in the National Football League. I mean, this is the stuff you write stories about and you make movies of, Alan.
Yeah, he was, and he is. I just saw him about a month ago down in Indianapolis at an event. Has trimmed down. He's fit. I think he's doing some radio show stuff. Great personality. And a guy that truly knows it when he sees it, and played an extremely good NFL career. I mean, a long NFL career. Wore jersey number 61, and he was an extremely good, and that 2003 team for Purdue, we talk a lot about that defense, but when you throw in Kyle Orton and you throw in, certainly Nick Hardwick and many others on the offensive side of the ball, that was a pretty salty outfit, and I think that's an excellent pick. And I would have, you've mirrored exactly where I would go here with that. I'm going to go next. This is a hard pick, and I'm going to dig deep here because I got to get these guys that are not that played in the 70s, which I saw some of these guys play. And I wasn't a connoisseur of great line play. All I cared about was the numbers of how many yards Otis Armstrong ran for, or Mark Herman threw for, or whatever. So I'm guilty of that. This is a tough one for me. I think, and I love personality on offensive line, and that's one thing I like. Steve McKenzie, I think, will be my next pick. He is my next pick, and Steve was on that line with Pete Quinn in the late '70s, Dale Schwann, etc. And Pete also from the Chicago, or excuse me, Steve from the Chicago area, wore jersey number 74. He was a guy that he gets known anymore because you tell stories about guys. He got hurt a little bit his senior year, doing some hijinks before the Minnesota game that cost. He didn't cost Purdue the game, but I think he was banged up. But Steve was a solid offensive lineman at an first team All Big Ten level for a couple of years in the 70s. I'm not sure. I didn't do my research of whether Steve got much of a look in the NFL at all. But I do know that Steve McKenzie was an extremely good and efficient tight offensive tackle, and I'll put him on my right side. Again, I've moved Donnie Green around, but I'm going to have Steve McKenzie on my right side.
He was not drafted, Alan.
Yeah. So he was a guy, though, that just very good college player and really fit in well. A little bit older. I think he was well, a lot of those guys, I think Schwann and Quinn were both, I know they were both recruited by Alex Agassi, and McKenzie was in the same boat.
Okay, my friend. I'm gonna get a book in from Matt Light. Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Matt on my left side, my right tackle. This guy's the prototypical right tackle. This guy blocks out the sun, Alan. He's a monolith. He walks through the door, your eyes go right to this guy. A man mountain. My right tackle is Dennis Kelly.
Yeah, good one.
Still in the National Football League. I think he scored a couple touchdowns. He scored that one touchdown in the playoff game, I think, last year for Tennessee, I believe. If I recall, Alan, he's from the state of New York.
Right.
And I remember, of course, I was a big fan of Gold and Black. Always read you guys religiously. And I remember reading about this Dennis Kelly guy.
And he's a gray shirt, was he not?
Yeah, they kept wanting to delay, say, well, we're going to gray shirt him. We're going to red shirt him. Like, he ended up starting as a true freshman. I think they had some injury issues, and he got rushed to the field early and more than held his own and didn't play on good teams, obviously. But Dennis Kelly was the guy who, again, boy, he checks every box when you're talking about an NFL tackle, and has had a nice career. And who knows, Alan? He has a look of a WWE wrestler too. So
yes, maybe, he does. With that name.
Maybe we'll give him a nickname and throw him in the ring sometime. So again, Dennis Kelly is going to be my right tackle. And again, I got Light on the left side. Right now, I got Big Nick Hardwick in the pivot. I just need two guards now, Alan.
Yeah, I like who you picked. Dennis Kelly, 6'8" also. He is a 21st century offensive lineman, a little over 320. Marian Catholic High School, again.
That's right.
Recruited, I believe, by Tiller, right? He did. He was one of the late picks by Tiller, and yeah, you're right. He has scored a couple touchdowns. I think he caught a pass, right? So yeah. He's a really good pick from your standpoint. I like him a lot. From a guy that really could do some different things, and got better as the time went on with him, certainly. All right, my pick, Lee Moses. All right, I'm gonna switch positions here a little bit because I want his toughness. I like his demeanor. They don't make him. When you talk to this guy, you feel better after talking to him. But yeah, you play offensive line. I never played the position. I never was close. But number 56, I'll pick Chucky Okobe. And I know Chucky was never a first or second team All Big Ten, I don't believe. But I loved his toughness and the fact that he could protect me. I'll put him at guard. Mm-hmm. But he can play center also, obviously. As he did in 2000, but I'm going to pick him. I'm going to pick him as my. I'm going to have to play a a situation where I'm going to have some mobility in my line and some toughness, and Chucky Okobe certainly brings that.
Yeah, what a character.
Hamden, Connecticut, right? So
yeah, let's just say he's got the gift of gab too, right?
yeah,
He's got a great personality, a very engaging person.
yeah,
He could sell ketchup popsicle to a lady in white gloves, as they say, right?
yeah, no doubt.
A good guy, good choice there. I like how your line's taking shape too, my friend. I put Okobe right next to Donnie Green. I think that'd be a good pairing on one side of your line. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit. I got a little memory of this guy, Alan. He's a guard. When I was a kid, my dad would walk me down right before halftime to where the players would walk up that little arced walkway to the halftime locker room. All the players would walk by. You could hear their cleats clicking and clacking.
Yeah,
Sweating. Some guys were limping up there at halftime, and I remember Ken Long. He had his helmet off, big gash in his forehead, and blood running down his forehead across the bridge of his nose. He looked like he was about 10 feet tall. Grass-stained pants. And again, this guy was a second-round draft choice of the Detroit Lions and had a nice career. And he's the kind of guy that you want on your interior.
And you got him at guard, right?
Got him at guard, physical, tough, get a push. You want the brawlers, you want the maulers on the inside. And in those days, in the mid-'70s, when Long was playing, Purdue was more of a physical ground team too.
Yeah.
So he'd be a guy, if it was 3rd and 2, I think I'd call the run right behind him.
Yeah, good pick. And a guy, when Purdue ran the football a lot, Scott Durking ran behind him as well. I don't know that he may have played a little bit with Otis Armstrong, but Ken Long was a guy that definitely was on, was flexible too, played both positions under the last years of Bob DeMoss and Alex Agassi. Good pick there, and the guy that certainly was second team All Big Ten at his height. I'm going to go back. I've got two tackles. I've got a left guard, or I could move Okobe either way. I'm going to pick another guard here. I think hard to pass up in a guy named Dale Schwann. Dale Schwann, number 66. We mentioned him. Really was even in those days. A tall offensive lineman, kind of he's so fit now that you see him. He lost whatever weight he had as a player when I see him at games, but he was a terrific player from Westlake, Ohio, an interior guy and a cerebral guy, as every offensive lineman will tell you that they are. I'm going to pick Dale Schwann as my guy, and yet there's a lot of guys in there that I could have picked, but he's going to be my offensive guard. All right, you're up with your last pick.
He was the next on my board. You got him. You stole him from me, Alan. Okay, my next pick, I'm going to go early, mid-2000s, two-time second team All Big Ten selection, Jordan Grimes.
Yeah.
This is another guy who could walk through a wall.
Huge.
I think he was from Plainfield, Indiana.
Right. Early pick too. Early came to Purdue. One of the first guys that came early, as I recall, to did the second semester thing in high school, as I recall. I may be wrong on that, but
and he started as a true freshman, I think, Alan. One of the very few rare true freshmen to start on the offensive line, and played a lot of snaps for Purdue, and again, two-time recognition as a second-team All Big Ten lineman, I think, says a lot. That's a rare feat among Purdue offensive linemen, and Jordan Grimes can make that claim again, albeit second team, but still a nice accolade. And a while ago, you were talking about those 2003, 2004 Purdue teams on offense, and he certainly was part of those offenses that were very effective. And a big reason why, again, Purdue, the last hurrah for Tiller, I like to say, 2002, 2003, 2004. Again, Grimes was a real anchor on Tiller's last really good teams.
Yeah, a good player and guy that certainly started off his career, like you said, a very rare rare guy that starts as a true freshman.
Mhm.
All right, I'm gonna have my all talking
I know who you're going with.
offensive line, and I don't know if Chucky Okobe and my pick Pete Quinn at center could play on the same line together. But Quinn would be very familiar with McKenzie and Schwann, certainly, because two guys that were on his offensive line. And, it's funny because we talk about, that now I've picked three guys from that late 70s offensive line, and where we have picked just Matt Light and Okobe from the 2000 line. But there's so many honorable mentions there that are very, very much in their wheelhouse. But Pete Quinn brought enthusiasm. He's meant so much to Purdue football over the years just by the fact he's kind of been the official alumni director. He kind of isn't, but he's kind of has been. He has been. Kept a lot of guys very much in tune. But Pete was a very good player. Scored a touchdown also, I believe, in the Wisconsin game, 1978. But
I'll tell you about it.
Well, yeah, that's right. And he will tell you about it. And, came in redshirted from Cena High School and he had a chance to play 4 years, started the majority of his 4 years at Purdue. Interesting. He got I think, Pete, we haven't talked to Pete much about this, but he had auditioned for, they were gonna ABC at the time with Jim Lampley and is it Tollison or whoever the other guy was. They had a fan in the stands, and they had thought about hiring Pete Quinn to do that job. I think he had turned some heads by singing some Elvis songs, etc. Back at the Liberty Bowl, I believe, in 1980. And I may be wrong.
I'm back. Hey, you're exactly. Pete's told me that story, Alan. But here's something for you. When I was in Westside High School, playing football on Friday night, they show one high school football game after the news they had taped, and Pete Quinn would be the color commentator, and Paul Stoddard was play-by-play. So I actually have footage of Pete Quinn from 1981 working a Westside Red Devil Harrison Raider game. That's where it all began for Big Pete.
Yeah, Pete is the Pied Piper of offensive line talk, but no line would be complete. Like I said, Schwann, I think, is a pretty quiet guy. Donnie Green was an extremely quiet guy, as I recall. I don't know Steve McKenzie all that well, but it'd be Okobe and Quinn talking. I'm going to be an all-effort line. You've got some studs in your line. I mean, you've got four guys that really played a significant time in the NFL, but where I probably had just two that did, and Chucky Okobe and Donnie Green. But I like your line as well. So let's go through some of our honorable mentions. There are many, and it was really hard to pick. I'll start with a couple of mine. Tom Lukin, who played a long time in the NFL at guard with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was a second team All-American or first team preseason All-American at Purdue at guard. Connie Zalesnik, number 50, also a guard under Alex Agassi, were two guys on my list. Emmett Satelli, who was famous for throwing up on the football every time he hiked it. I don't know if he must have, because he was listed as a guard. I think he did play some center for Jim Coletto. Mike Otto, who started for 4 years. And I think two guys that Brandon Gorin and Gene Murskowski, two guys that really are right. I could have picked Murskowski in a second. I love the guy, played every game except he didn't have an ACL his last game against Indiana, and actually got inserted in the bowl game. This guy just played all the time, extremely intelligent player. And Brandon Gorin also was on those Patriot lines. He was right at the tip of my tackle picks. I love Brandon as a person, and he's right there as well. How about some others on anybody else on your list? And there's a couple others I missed, but any others that you overlook?
You guys, one other Coletto guy was, I think maybe Coletto's best lineman he developed was Mark Fisher.
Oh yeah, really good player, and played first year under Tiller. Yeah,
he was a great player. Redskins draft choice, played in the league for a little bit. I think he was an engineer too. Smart guy.
Smart.
Ralph Coretta.
Yeah. First team All Big Ten.
Yeah, first team All Big Ten. He was a draft choice of the Chargers, I want to say.
And he played a little bit in the league, I believe. Yeah. So, and that may be an oversight. Again, hard to pick. It's so funny because I'm looking at the size of these guys. Tom Lukin, 6'3", 230.
Yeah, I know.
So is he a running back?
Quarterback that big now.
but yeah, amazing.
A couple of quick guys. Kelly Butler,
Yeah.
Stuart Schweigert's good friend from Michigan. Boy, you want to talk about when God made an offensive tackle body. Purdue typically never is able to sign offensive linemen like that. And when they got Kelly Butler, that was a big deal. This was a guy that could have gone a lot of places. As you know, Alan, again, this guy was built to play the offensive line, and a special talent, a rare talent to matriculate to Purdue as an offensive lineman, a special player who played with the Lions for a while. And here's another guy that I'll always remember, Alan, from your era, maybe a year or two younger, but he was a big recruit from Maryville, Indiana. Tom Gillette Ski was one of the best players in the state of Indiana. I think it was class of 1980, I want to say, and Maryville Pirate, and he was a giant. And he played a lot of football. I think he had some issues at Purdue, but he played with the Eagles, I remember, in the NFL. But Tom Gillette Ski probably never really fulfilled his potential, but still, he was a special player and a big-time recruit, I remember.
Yes, he was. And I remember watching him play basketball for is it Maryville, right?
Yeah, Maryville, yep.
And in Mackey Arena, I knew because he had very good and big guy, obviously, but big as a house, and certainly played. I think he started in '80 and played a couple years after that as well, and a very good play. Jason Sigelski, also an offensive guard who transferred to Purdue from Notre Dame.
Yep.
Fred Akers, he was a very good player in his time, also at the guard position. It was a guy that and John Lefevre, also big as one of the first big guys, 6'7", 6'8", it seemed like, Geneva, Illinois, number 71. I think he also played up to 1978, so he was on those lines with Quinn and Schwann, et cetera. So, I'm not rethinking my choice of the 2000 line, but that late 70s line under Jim Young, extremely good. But I think, and there have been some others, but
one last shout out, Alan, a Northwest Indiana guy, gone on to some fame as an NFL executive from Highland, Indiana, Ryan Grigson.
Oh yeah.
Ryan was a Fred Akers recruit and under the radar guy who developed. And you want to talk about a guy who's bigger than a house? He was bigger than a house.
And overcame a terrible illness, also, right? To be able to play. And almost died in his time at Purdue, and of course, a good friend of Mike Allstott's in that time as well. Good call there, and there are others, and some unsung, some teams that weren't as good that had some really,
Jordan Ruse, the Jordan Ruse kid, and Jason King, two guards of recent vintage who were both very good and underrated.
Yeah, absolutely. And even of late, you've had some guys that certainly were in that vein, because you had guys that were offensive linemen by nature, don't get a whole lot of hype by any stretch. But I think you get guys get chances to, and I'm looking up a name because I'm drawing a couple blanks on people, but you look at center Kirk Barron, also, who played was underrated, came in as a center, played very, very well under both Darrell Hazel and under Jeff Brom. A guy that you like him as tough and as motivated as he is to play. And I think that guy is a guy that you think about. Grant Herman's maybe a guy in time that will be at that level. He's had to endure some injuries and hardship, certainly, at Purdue. So all good stuff.
Unche Nwarne.
Yeah.
Another good one.
Yep, another guy had some challenges off the field, but a guy that was not necessarily his fault. But certainly got pinned on him, and that was a tough deal as well. But all right, I appreciate it. We will do tight ends next week on our show, and then finally finish up with quarterbacks, which will be a good debate. It'll be fun to talk about that. So we want to thank our sponsors, and that, of course, is Purdue Federal Credit Union, Follett's, Purdue Bookstores, also East End Grill, 6th Street Dive, restaurants in Lafayette, serving and going strong as they can be. Want to thank also First Source Bank and Charters Team Remax Ability Plus, Home Field Apparel. You can buy your new gold and black merchandise there. I also want to thank some of our restaurant friends that are trying to make a go of this now. Whitaker Inn has remained open, and the inn is open as well, but great carry out there. Arnie's, Bruno's, there's a Lafayette area legends, but Arnie's obviously also all throughout the state of Indiana been great to us over the years, and we're appreciative of them. So we'll look forward to our next week's show. Tight ends, we're going to pick, I think, two each. So we can rotate them in and out. Purdue's had some good ones over the years. It'll be fun to talk about those guys to that point. So, all right, Tom, we'll talk to you here in a little bit, and we'll do next week's show. We'll look forward to that as well.
Take care.